Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action, and today we are playing something incredibly spicy. Today we are playing Doom's Shadow, which, as you may have guessed, is a Death Shadow deck that also runs Doomsday. So Doomsday is a card where you half your life and you get to replace your library with 5 cards. Now, halving your life is something that I thought might be quite fun to try with a Death Shadow. There's a little bit of overlap because, you've got all your sort of brainstorms, you've got your force of wills, you've got your ponders, you've got your thought seizes. So there's a little bit of room for these two decks to collide together. And I thought, at the very least, it would be quite a fun one to try for the channel. So the aim of this deck is to play more or less a pretty standard sort of Death Shadow game. So we've got Death Shadows, which we can make big. We've got the Thought Seizes, we've got the Watery Grave and Underground Sea Mana Base, we've got Wastelands, Dazes, Force of Wills, a Snuff Out, a Fatal Push. So we've got that sort of side of the deck. And then we've got these Street Wraiths, which can also be useful in the Doomsday pile, which we'll discuss in a second. And we've got Gurmag Anglers. Now, the reason we're running Gurmag Anglers as our big beta here is because you can cast off of Dark Ritual. So if you have a turn one where you have like Fetch Land, Street Wraith, Dark Ritual, you can basically smash down a Gurmag Angler super fast. That's why we went with the Angler here. I did think about putting Tombstalker in, but maybe that was just a little bit too cute, and the mana works out better for this to come down earlier. So that's your Death Shadow game. It's basically like a tempo game where you use your cantrips and play some big guys, and hopefully those guys can clock in a couple of turns whilst you have a little bit of permission around it. Now, the other half of the deck is Doomsday. So you replace your deck with a pile of 5 cards. One of those 5 cards will be Thassa's Oracle, which, if you don't have many cards in your library, just wins you the game with its come into play trigger. So what you can do is you can set up a Doomsday early on and give yourself a pile to win the game, like in a turn or two. So you've got a Cavern of Souls, which is one of the things that you don't really want to draw. So you're going to be trying to shuffle this back in with Brainstorm relatively often. But on the Doomsday pile, it's going to give you uncounterable win condition there. The Street Wraiths are something that's in Death Shadow and Doomsday, so these help you when you've made your pile of 5 cards to cycle through it a bit quicker, as is the Edge of Autumn. I didn't want to have 3 Street Wraiths because I needed a effect that could cycle that didn't cost me life, which is why we've also only got 1 Snuff Out, 1 Fatal Push, when originally I was going to have 2 Snuff Outs. So that's more or less what the main deck's doing there. We are very cold to Blood Moon effects because we have no basic lands, because we're trying to have days available as well as all these black spells. So we kind of need to have these, but that's fine. Like Delver decks of old used to not run any basics when you're back in the old Rug Delver days. So it's something I've played before, so I can deal with that. It's quite hard to actually wasteland a Death Shadow deck out of a game purely because all of their spells cost 1 mana pretty much. Going to see how this goes. As a sideboard, we've got various bits and pieces, really. So we've got some good things to Dark Ritual out. So we've got Turak, we've got Plague Engineer, we've got Opposition Agent. We've got 3 Force of Negation, because there's quite a lot of quite busted combo decks around at the moment. And I think having an answer to things like Blood Moon that can just ruin your day is important. We have 1 Brazen Borrow, which I'm not convinced is going to be that great if we're going to be tapping out for things, because then this might not be enough, but it's an option we have, so why not? Hydroblast, again, Blood Moons, and there's a lot of good red spells like Expressive Iteration and Dragon's Rage Channeler floating about. And we got a couple of bits of Graveyard Hate and a couple bits of removal for if we need to deal with decks that are putting lots of things on the board quickly, like Goblins and Death and Taxes and Elves. So we should have a reasonable amount of play here. So the sideboard is very much answers, so it's more leaning into the Death Shadow part, but then the Force of Negations are a thing that you find in Doomsday decks when they need to sort of buy turns anyway. So that's more or less what we're going with. I've not actually played Doomsday before, but I've been reading up a little bit about how to arrange piles. We don't have a lot of exciting piles in this one. We're mainly going to be doing like consider Fetchland Duel type piles here with some cyclers and things. We're just going to have to work out as we come to it. But we're not doing anything really complicated because we don't have room for deep analysis. We don't have room for the lines like diamond lines and so on. So yes, this is what we're going to be playing today, and I think it should be an absolute blast. Not sure how good it's going to be, but it should be an enjoyable one, which is what the channel's all about, really. All right, let's jump into a league. All right, so this is our opening hand in game 1. We've got Force of Will to protect against anything too broken. We have the Doomsday Dark Ritual combo, which we could fire off as early as turn 1. But I think we're probably going to ponder on turn 1 first. Obviously, we're going to see what our opponent does, but this is definitely a keep in my books. A Cloud Post. Okay, so we're playing against 12 Post. Interesting. So I think we play this out. We will pay 2 life. So we can ponder here, or we can Thoughtseize. These are the 2 options that I'm leaning into at the moment. I think we wait another turn for Thoughtseize because we might be able to hit something more impressive, and we do have a Force of Will. We just need to make sure we get mana underneath us for this game. So the Wasteland here is very good. So maybe next turn we Wasteland and cast Doomsday. Seems alright to me. We have another Dark Ritual, so we can Dark Ritual out the Thoughtseize as well. Yeah, that seems fine to me. So I think we put Thoughtseize, Dark Ritual, Wasteland, and then draw the Wasteland. And then see what our opponent attempts here. A City of Traitors. This could be something like a defense grid or something. It's interesting they have the City of Traitors because obviously that doesn't help with the fact they want to play more. Okay, I think we have to Force of Will this one. Yeah, so I think the City of Traitors is weird because they're going to have to play a card to then get their Cloud Post functioning. So this could be like an old-fashioned like mono brown decks. There weren't really Cloud Post decks, but they sometimes ran Cloud Post because they were better than other colourless lands. Okay, so I think we start off with a Dark Ritual. And then we will Thoughtseize our opponent because we can then Dark Ritual again when we need to in a second. This will let us know what we're working against, and if this is actually something we can... Ugin the Ineffable... I don't think any of these are a problem, apart from the Trinisphere. So I think if we take the Trinisphere here, we can then play out the Wasteland. Let's pop out their revealed things. So if we take out the City of Traitors, we'd knock them off of 2 mana, but if we take out the Cloud Post... I think we actually take out the City of Traitors here, because that basically leaves them without plays. And then we cast this. And then we can cast Doomsday and... So we cast the Angler and then we cast Doomsday. So we've kind of got them coming and going a little bit here. So we'll cast this and just exile our whole graveyard. So let's play this out and then we can cast the Doomsday. So we can just stack our deck with Wastelands and beat down with Gurmag Angler, or we can go for a little win here. So I think we're going to want a mana source here. So I think we probably take the Cavern of Souls, just in case they have some sort of chalice that they can put out on 2. We need to take the Thassa's Oracle. Then if we have Consider, I don't even think we need the Consider. I think we can just play out Wastelands and just strip them out here. Wasteland, Wasteland, and if they have their own Wasteland, how much trouble are we going to be in there? Let me take a Daze, I think. Is that right? So next time, if we had a Consider, that takes mills 1 card and draws us the next one, which could be a Cycler. We could cycle, so we still need another turn anyway. So I think we get rid of one of the Wastelands and we put in a Cycler here, just so we can get through it a little bit quicker. Sure, this seems fine. So now we have to put them on top in the right order. So this is the bottom one, and then we want Cavern of Souls. Then it's a case of do we want the Daze or the Wasteland. So I think we probably want the Wasteland first. So we'll put the Daze, then the Street Wraith, then the Wasteland. So our opponent has basically 1 draw step here before they're going to get Wastelanded out of the game. Okay, so they have a Waste, so they get to cast a Grim Monolith here. So attach to 3, so they can go and get Karn next turn. So this is a slight problem for us, I think. Or I should have tried to set up a pile. I don't think I can set up a pile there that automatically wins me the game there, just the amount of land I have. So I think we play this Wasteland out, hit the Cloud Post. So they get 1 use of their Grim Monolith here. Okay, so drawn a Glimmer Post, which actually changes the clock, which is potentially quite relevant here. So another option we had was just to load up with Death Shadows and just have lots of massive guys, which I think would have also been fine. So this looks like a Walking Ballista for 2 or a Khan the Great Creator. Okay, it's the Walking Ballista. So now we have to be a little careful here, but we can attack. Our opponent has 2 mana to try and interrupt us. So this will put us down to 5, this will put us down to 3, and this can put us down to 1. And we'll have a Daze backup as well. Doomsday is not an easy deck to play. And this isn't even a Doomsday deck. But I think it might work out still. So if they have more mana, they can put counters on this and kill me. So this is it's not going perfectly to plan. But we might be okay still. So if we cycle this in 2 life, we have no cards in our library. And we can play this and name Merfolk. And we add blue, cast Assa's Oracle. Okay, so we had the win there. It was a bit ugly. I definitely could have taken a lot of different lines with our Doomsday power there. We could have tried to win quicker using things like Consider as well and multiple cyclers. But because we only had 1 land to start with, I think that kind of messed up my maths a little bit. But I could have done... No, I think it was okay. Let's go onto the sideboard before we use all our time up. So our opponent is trying to play Trinispheres, and they're trying to play giant things. So I think we're looking at disrupting their hand and ignoring their board as a general rule here. So we have potentially 6 cards that we're in the market for. Fatal Push also doesn't look good. That leaves us with 4 cards. I like all of our cantrips. Obviously the core of the deck is the core of the deck, so we can't really mess around with that too heavily. What else are we worried about from our opponent here? We can probably trim on a cycler. We'll still have 2 in the deck. We want to keep our Thoughtseizes. Bring in a Brazen Borrower. What can we trim on here? The Daisies feel like they're not actually going to be that good here, right? Because they're looking to be a big mana deck. So I'm not sure if I really want to have Daisies here. Certainly not on the draw. So we'll submit like this and try and leverage an early Force of Will into some discard. Okay, so we have our Force of Will, we have Brainstorm, we have a decent amount of mana. I think we can keep this, but we're probably going to have to lean on this Brainstorm a little bit here, which isn't ideal. Should we keep this actually? I think we can do better actually. Let's mulligan. Okay, so keep this and we'll throw back the Oracle. So we're looking at pondering here. So we need to find the right cards off of the ponder. We're not going to have any immediate interaction, which is a bit of a shame. So we could get hit by a chalice here, which is the one thing we don't happen. Sure, that's the one thing that's happened. Excellent. So we can play ponders out just to power out a Gurmag Angler. That's a realistic play that we can make. This doesn't help with these instants and sorceries. I think we're just going to play this one out. And I think our life total is not going to be under the most amount of pressure, so we want to enable our shadows. We're going to play out the ponder now, just to put cards in our graveyard for the Gurmag Angler, because that's how we're going to win this game. So the first hand I had would have been better, because I would have been able to counter the chalice, but it didn't have any action, didn't go anywhere, and relied on Brainstorm. So it looks like they're probably playing a 4-drop this turn, off of Soul Land into... Okay, so they're just going to play a 3-drop. So if this is going to be a Trinisphere, they could accidentally lock themselves under their own Trinisphere. Okay, so this will counter our combo side of the deck, which is fine. We're not on the combo side here. We can just Doomsday into a bunch of cool stuff though, which is certainly a real thing. So we're going to play out the ponder here. Yep, into the chalice. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we want to lower our loto, I think. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I don't need to play out the Consider now. So I can hold the Consider back for a blue card later, because next turn we're just going to play Gurmag Angler. Okay, so this is good for us. Play this out. Crack this. So now we're at 13. I think we get the last Watery Grave. So any Death Shadows we have alive. And we cast this. Black, black, black. And just play this guy out. So our plan now is to just bash with the Gurmag Angler until our opponent is dead. So unfortunately going to be 5 turns because of the Glimmer Post. But we can cast Doomsday and just put some Death Shadows and then use the Cavern of Souls to play them through the Chalice. So I think we're probably going to do that next turn. First off, we attack. Oh, I passed through my turn by accident now. I was supposed to Doomsday. Oh my god, that's so bad. That's so bad. What am I doing? I absolutely misclicked my way out of this game, perhaps. Okay, so this is probably going to be a little bit bad for us there. So we're going to lose that creature. Edge of Autumn. 3, 4. Okay, so we're just going to cast Doomsday here. Black, black, black. So what we have to do here is find a line that beats Ugin the Ineffable. What is our solution to beating Ugin the Ineffable? Like, we can put a Brazen Borrower and just bounce the orb for the turn we want to go off with the Thassa's Oracle. I don't hate that as a plan. So if we put the Borrower and the Oracle in, and then we can stack 2 Death Shadows and a Street Wraith. So we're losing half a low total round up here, so we're going to 5. So we can also put a Force of Will on top now, in case we need to Force of Will something. So we do this. Do we want the... Because we can cycle our Edge of Autumn if there's something that really game ending. Now, does that mean we just want... Do we even want 2 shadows? I think we probably don't want 2 shadows. We just want the Force of Will, the Thassa's Oracle, the Brazen Borrower, the Death Shadow. We want the Street Wraith here. Okay, I think this is what we want. So, the bottom card is the Thassa's Oracle. And then it's probably the Brazen Borrower on top of that. And then it's the Force of Will is going to be the top card in case we need to cycle Edge of Autumn for it. Which means we probably need to put the Street Wraith, Death Shadow, Force of Will. And then we don't want to play out our Cavern of Souls just yet, in case there's anything that can destroy it, because we're going to be playing... Yeah, okay, this is fine. It's not fine, but it's what we're doing. Needs must in the face of Torpor Orb and such like. So the Death Shadow is probably not going to do anything in regards to Ugin, but it will hopefully garner some attention from them. Okay, so this is a little bit awkward. So I think we are losing this game at present. Thought Not Seer. How much do I care about Thought Not Seer? We're going to lose our blue card to Force of Will. We cycle this. We have to counter spell this because I think we are in trouble if we don't. So we can't afford to take a hit from anything at this point because of the Street Wraith that we're hoping to use. So next turn we have Street Wraith, Death Shadow. We're going to have to 2-step our Brazen Borrower as well. So I think we are in a lot of trouble here. This can crack and kill our Death Shadow, which is a real issue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if I play this. I think this is fine though. So we play this and we name Avatar. And then we cast a Big Fish. Okay, so we have a creature that they can't kill with Ugin this turn. They need another turn for this, and they can't kill it with Blast Zone. So hopefully they'll put some counters on Blast Zone this turn. Otherwise I think we are in trouble. Obviously the more 2/2s they create, the worse this Street Wraith on top of our library is. So I think we may have punted a little bit by not having the best Doomsday pile in the world. I'm glad I put the Brazen Borrower in the sideboard though. Okay, so the Blast Zone is not going to get any counters on here. If they've just got like a big threat here, then we're in trouble. It's 6 mana. So if they play out another Ugin, for example, and just hit this and put us to 2, then we are stone cold dead if they remember to activate their Blast Zone next turn. So, yeah. So they're going to be presumably killing our Gurmag Angler. Yeah, we can just concede now. Okay, so I think I did not have the optimal Doomsday pile. So the question now is whether or not I want to play the Daisies, if I think that's going to be a good idea. They are a big mana deck. I'm not sure that the Daisies is where we actually want to be. I think we were better off just picking apart the little bits we can and using Force of Will as the big scary thing. I don't want to be caught with a Daze in hand when they've got so much mana. So we're going to submit. So this hand is fine. So I think we just lead out Watery Grave, play Ponder, and we have Force of Will if we require it. For something like a Chalice of the Void will probably demand one. So, do we want any of these cards? Not really, so we're just going to shuffle our library and take a fresh one. A backup Force of Will, so we can Force of Will and still keep our Brainstorm intact. Or we can Force of Will and then try and find a blue card, but I think keeping the Brainstorm is just going to be the better play. Ancient Tombs, so there's probably going to be a Chalice again, in which case we will have to Force of Will it. And I think we do keep the Brainstorm here. Let's get us down to 17 life. Okay, a Brainstorm is a good one. Let's have a look. So what do we have here? We have Consider, which can clear our Brainstorm. So we play this and it reduce our life total by 3, so that puts us to 14. And then this will put us down to a little bit lower. So, and then we can Doomsday if we want. We're going to need the extra land to cast a Doomsday on the following turn though. I think we keep both of our lands and we put back Consider. I guess we can put back Consider and then one of our lands. And then we can cycle the Street Wraith immediately. So I think we cycle this. And we play this. We crack this and go and get our Watery Grave. Pay some life. Make a big guy. He's not very big now, he's a 1/1. But when we cast Doomsday next turn, he's going to get a lot bigger. If we draw something like a Dark Ritual, then we can Doomsday and have Brainstorm up, and that will change our lines that we can take. So they could play a Walking Ballista and kill our Death Shadow here, which would be annoying, but they have to consider that I might have a Street Wraith available to play around that. So they're probably better off just playing a 4-drop. They can play a Walking Ballista for 4, and then if they ping for 1, then it's not really going to lose them anything. Walking Ballista doesn't feel great in this matchup for them. But we'll see what they play. So they have the Walking Ballista. Okay, so we're going to lose our creature, which is pretty annoying. Let's put us to 1. This will go to 1, sorry. So we have a choice here of whether or not we Brainstorm. Okay, so we can Doomsday with Force of Will backup, but this is going to put this is going to put a counter on. So this is going to bash us for 2. And then the turn after, it's going to bash us for 3. And then it can remove all those counters and kill us. So Doomsday this turn is probably not where we want to be. So I think we have to cast this Brainstorm. So we can put these 2 Doomsdays on top. Put out the Wasteland. Take out their Ancient Tomb. Cast this guy. So now we've got 5/5. If they play a land, they lose their land. And then next turn we can Doomsday from a slightly better position because we didn't really have anything else going on. So sure. So they can make a 4-drop again, or they can pump the Walking Ballista this turn. I thought not. So this is going to take our Force of Will, which is fine. This Force of Will was pretty much dead at this point anyway. Again, the Daze is looking pretty good in this matchup right now on the play, so perhaps I should have boarded them in for the play. Okay, so this turn we play this out and go to 5. It's going to be a good pile, so I'm going to have to use a lot of my clock and my brain for this one. So we can Consider, so that shrinks, so that basically ignores, that makes the pile into 3 cards. And then if we have Cycler, we can go off that turn. So Consider gets rid of the blank card and draws us into the Cycler. The Cycler then cycles, leaving us 2 cards left. 1 more card to do something with here. So I suppose if we have the Death Shadow, that's something that can block, which is probably quite important here. So we have Consider, Edge of Autumn, Thassa's Oracle, Death Shadow. So we need the extra mana. So we can't do it all in one turn. Do we think they're going to have a Torpor Orb in hand? I think they probably would have played a Torpor Orb if they had it. It's a bit risky not to do that, but I think we can put another Death Shadow and just have more guys. Okay, I think we're going to go like this. We haven't got a lot of time on our clock, so we need to just hurry it up. So this goes on the bottom, then it's this, then it's... So we're going to bin one of the Death Shadows, I think, here. Right, so we go... We have to play the first Death Shadow. So we go Death Shadow, Consider, Death Shadow. And then we have to hold back and not die. So we play the Death Shadow, and then the turn after we win. Now, our opponent obviously gets some turns, and they might have something to say about what we're doing. But they are hopefully limited to just 2 mana. Torpor Orb will be the breaking of us, but I don't think we can play around everything. I think we just have to go because we're a little bit behind if we don't do that. Because we have to cast Doomsday that turn. Maybe we could have just had like a really aggressive Doomsday pile of just lots of Death Shadows. Okay, so they have a Cloud Post. So, okay, they have a Torpor Orb. So I think we are going to lose this game, which is not ideal. So we can make a Death Shadow that's very big and forces blocks, but obviously the Thought Knot Seer actually changes the amount of turns we have to win the game. So that's nice to know, isn't it? So let's make a large man. I think we have to attack now. Attack with all creatures. So if we can shut off the Ancient Tomb, that would be good. So they might just block and ping us for 1 here. Or they're just going to take it. If they have a removal spell here, we die. But their deck doesn't really have a lot of removal spells apart from like the 6 drops. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to play a 6. So next time we draw the Consider. So we can Consider and leave the Death Shadow on top and draw it. And then just put a second Death Shadow into play. Which I think is our best bet at trying to win this game. Okay, they've got another Cloud Post. Okay, so that one taps for 2 and this one taps for 2. But it'll put them so that both of my creatures are lethal. Chalice of the Void on 1. Okay, so we're not playing any more Death Shadows. Understood. This is going to be a tricky one to win, I think. This is a tight game. This deck is very silly, so I'm sure I'm playing suboptimal. Let me have a look. So if we attack with both of these creatures, they have to block this. So they can block this, ping us for 1, and then kill us with a Thought Knot Seer, which sounds like a bad time for me. So I think we have to attack with just the Death Shadow here. So we basically built a pile hoping they wouldn't have Torpor Orb and Chalice of the Void, and they had both of them, which was not the best of times for us. This will put us down to 2 cards in library. And we can't play these out. Sorry, if they tap their Ancient Tomb, they'll be on 5. So if they can only tap their Ancient Tomb if they're playing a creature to the board. We have to just F6 through this turn, actually, because we're very low on clock here. I find people who play Doomsday regularly very impressive Magic players, to be honest, because there's so many lines. 5 cards out of a whole deck is a lot of permutations. And that's only considering what you're doing, let alone what your opponent's doing. At least I've cast my first ever Doomsday, and it was, at least I won off of the first one I cast. That's something. Okay, so our opponents finally got some action, and they played the Glimmer Post from their hand, which is going to change the clock, which is a problem for us, truth be told. The best thing they can draw really is Thought Knot Seers, because I will get to draw cards off of them, and I don't want to draw cards. Okay, they did not play a threat this turn, which is good for us. So we can go to attacks. We attack with both of our creatures here. The one thing they could have is Warping Whale, which will give them a 1/1 that they can put in front of one of the guys, and then buff their Walking Ballista. But I think we need to just push and try and win the game. 6 mana, 6 colourless mana at instant speed. So this is going to be putting counters on this, which is why we have to attack, because we need to make sure that this dies. So if we only attack with one of them, then they can just take it and pump this. So they're going to get us low. If they have another Walking Ballista in hand, they can win the game next turn. The maths works out that they can put me to 1 here. So I don't want to tap their Ancient Tomb. So put 1 counter on this one. Okay, sure. So they're going to ping us for 2 here. Take 5. So I've got 2 lethal threats next turn, but I'm going to be on 3 life. So they can have Glimmer Post. Can certainly help them out here. This is 2, 4, 6. So if they have another Walking Ballista, we lose the game. But I think we've done well to field stuff that can try and push through these. Like, it's going to come down to the very last turn. I can't be too upset if I don't win this one. Glimmer Post will only gain them 4 as well, which is not... Oh, we got it! We got the match! Okay, game 1 for Doom's Shadow, round 1. I wasn't expecting to win many rounds in this league, if I'm being perfectly honest. So the fact that we won the first round is warming to my heart and soul. Alright, let's go into the next one and see if we can keep it going. Alright, so we're into round 2 finally, and this is the opening hand we've been dealt here. So we have ourselves for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to put us to 13. We do have a lot of lands that we're going to need to get rid of with this brainstorm though. But we're on the draw as well, so we have another card we can look at there. So I'm not convinced about this one actually. I think I'm going to mulligan because there's just so many lands. If I get the same hand with 1 less land, it's the same hand I think. So we're going to mulligan. Well, this is a spicy one, isn't it? We have a lot of options here. I think we will keep this one. And we'll probably bottom the... Has to be one of these 2, I think. I think we'll get bottom the Death Shadow here and lean into the Gurmag Angler. Let's see what our opponent does first. Because we don't have a way of making the Death Shadow castable for a little while. Whereas we can make the Gurmag Angler castable because we've got Wastelands, we've got Dark Rituals. Alternatively, okay, we're just going to lose the game this turn because they are playing Oops All Spells. Sure. We will concede the game. All right. So, what do we want here? We have Force of Negations, which are good. We have Surgical Extractions, which are good. The Opposition Agent shut down some of their things. Like, you can use the Opposition Agent to stop Summoners Pact, and that's about it. So it's a case of, is this going to be better than some of the other things we're bringing in? So the Snuff Out isn't going to do anything here. The Fatal Push isn't going to do anything here. The Thought Seizes are fine. The Counter Spells, these are all fine. These are all fine. This is probably a matchup where just playing the Death Shadow half the deck is going to be good. But we're boarding in 2 threats here, so we can change up the threat profile of our deck. Because our deck is not a turbo Doomsday deck, I don't think we actually want the Doomsday package for this particular matchup. Bring all those out. I guess we can board in something like a Turak, just as like another threat to beat down with. Even if it's just the 2-1, because basically the idea is we're going to try and counter and discard whatever their plays are, and then hope that we can beat them down. Is this right? Do we board out the Doomsday package here? If we Doomsday, like the quickest Doomsday we can get, because we're not Lotus Petal deck or anything like that, like we can't realistically win with Doomsday until turn 3. I think we're just better off with the aggressive elements here. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I'm going to submit that. We have a lot of interaction, so I think it's a case of doing the interaction and then winning with whatever's left over. So this lets us Thoughtseize on turn 1, and then not a lot else after that. The problem, we're going to be desperately searching for mana to cast anything. Do I think 1 Thoughtseize is going to be enough to take apart their hand is the question. Like if we draw a blue spell, this is going to be good. If we draw a land, we're still going to be waiting 2 times. I think we have to mulligan, right? So this has got Force of Will, it's got Surgical Extraction. So I've got 2 different lines here. So I think we keep this one, and then we have to bottom something. So I think we probably just bottom the Street Wraith here. We want to keep maximum blue cards, and then we say done. So our opponent could play all sorts of things. They could be playing Xanthid Swarms, they could be playing Leylands of Sanctity. They start the game on 6 cards, which is quite a lot, honestly, for Usul spells. So let's ponder and see what we hit. So we have a Daze, which I'm not opposed to having in my opening hand. So we're definitely keeping this one. The Turak is going to be a creature that beats down. So I think we put them on like this. Like we have to draw one of those 2 cards. So it may as well be the Daze here. So let's see if we have enough interaction. So if they play a Xanthid Swarm this turn, we can try and Daze it. Or we can Force of Will it. They might not have a Xanthid Swarm because we didn't show them anything. But we'll see. Wild Cantor, that's fine. So we don't want the card that's on top of our library right now. How good is a Turak just like naked like this? I don't think it's actually very good. I think we're better off holding up the hardcast Daze maybe, and then using the Turak, like ideally off of something like a Dark Ritual perhaps. I just don't think a 2-1 on the board now when they have a Wild Cantor is going to make a huge amount of difference, because they're just going to be able to deal with us. I think it's worth holding on to this, but we do want to crack our fetch land before the end of turn because we don't want to draw the Watery Grave. Okay, so there's an Agadim, and they're just playing it tapped. It didn't come in for the damage. Very cowardly. Okay, so we're going to crack this. And I think we put this in untapped because we are still a Death Shadow deck and we might want to be in the market for that. Okay, so this turn I think we can consider. Yeah, I think we consider this turn. We have 2 blue cards. So another Daze. I guess we just draw the Daze. So we have Surgical Extraction, we have Daze, we have Force of Will, and we have another Daze. Kind of want our opponent to start being down. We didn't have the Watery Grave out first, they didn't know that we were trying to do Undercity Informer is what they're going for here. So they have the Wild Cantor here. So I think we cast this, pitching a Daze. And we can rebuy that play because we have blue Force of Will and Daze next turn. Okay, Death Shadow. A little bit frustrating. I think we should just play out the Turak here and start attacking with it. Like, if we... Hitting this is a kind of similar to just throwing off a Daze in a lot of ways, because they're going to play around Daze as best they can anyway, but if we trade with this, at least it's something that's off the board. They have limited amount of resources to work with. Chromox, sure. So we have the ability to Force of Will, and even if that doesn't work, we can Thoughtseize. Not Thoughtseize, Surgical Extraction. So there is an argument for just letting them do it all and try and hit them with the surgical extraction, but I'd rather have that as a last line of defense given how potent the Oopsal spells deck can be, especially with lines like Memory's Journey, which is what the Wild Cantor would give them the ability to do. Right, so we get to cast this Ponder. What are we going to see with our Ponder? Another surgical extraction, a Force of Will. So we can surgically extract their Undercity Informer and their Balustrade Spy. I don't hate that as a play. So I think we put Force of Will, then the Ponder, then the surgical extraction. And then we will not shuffle. So then we will cast this, targeting Balustrade Spy, or pay 2 life. What do they have? Force of Vigor. Let's see. Am I just going to win if I take out the Undercity Informer? Yes, I think I am. We cast this, targeting this, paying this. This also makes our Death Shadow a creature that I can beat down with. They will probably concede to this because, yeah, okay. But now they know what we're doing, so they're more likely to have something like a Xanthid Swarm. So this is where Fatal Pushes and potentially even something like a Plague Engineer on Insect can work. So, what do you want to do here? Like, I still like the Torak as an option. The Daisies are going to be worse on the draw. So maybe we're even cutting some of our Death Shadows here. I think we cut Death Shadows for a couple of pushes. Because the Plague Engineer is okay if you have the Dark Ritual, but otherwise it's not going to deal with the Xanthid Swarm. So I at least like to have a way to get around Xanthid Swarm on turn 1, if that's something they're going to be playing. So we'll trim 2 of our shadows. Do we want this additional Turak? Maybe it's better than the Angler. These Street Wraiths don't look incredible either. Street Wraiths are quite good for letting you draw extra cards off of a Ponder though, if you've got it set up in a way that you want. I think we'll go for this. So, we have a counter spell for turn 1. We have a Thoughtseize as well. Like, we don't have a way of winning the game, but we have a Brainstorm to help find it. So, if we can survive the first turn, that would be lovely. Okay, so they kept 6, which is a little bit worrying. I'd rather they went a bit lower. So my little bits of interaction. So this is probably going to be a Thoughtseize on us. A Cabal Therapy. This is fine, actually, because they're probably going to name Force of Will here. It does make follow-up Cabal Therapy better, obviously. Yep, so there's the Force of Will name. So Force of Negation getting around that is pretty nice for us. I've only got 4 cards left to deal with. So we play this out. And we will Thoughtseize our opponent. Let's see what you're working with over there. So we have Pact of Negation, Undercity Informer, Undercity Informer. Interesting. So this represents mana. So I think we probably take the mana out from underneath them because you can't take out both of these Undercity Informers. Make sure we keep their hand revealed. Next turn we Brainstorm. And we hope we get something that can try and close the game out. So first step, Brainstorm. With a fetch land, which is nice. So the Surgical Extraction here is pretty good for us. It's one of the things we want. We don't need 2 Dark Rituals, but 1 Dark Ritual is pretty good. So we don't want this Underground Sea. Alternatively, we can just make a Street Wraith, but that beats for the same as a Opposition Agent, but an Opposition Agent also messes with their ability to play around us. So the question here is, do I want to draw another Dark Ritual right now? If I do, then I Street Wraith first. Is it worth drawing the other Dark Ritual? I don't think it is. I think I'd rather save that to draw a random card. So we'll get this pay 2 life. Then I think we can pass and then maybe try and catch them if they do anything. The response or just do it at their end of turn is also fine. Cast this. Or a Ponder. Don't mind if I do. See, the Street Wraith is going to be better now because of the Ponder. I would like a Force of Negation. So let's put these on top like this. All the fetch lands are the same as deck, so it doesn't matter which one I get. So we'll not shuffle our library. We'll draw this. We'll cycle this to get the land, which we'll then play. And then we will shuffle away our other fetch land. So we've got a slow clock, and we have the ability to interact with them on numerous levels. We can hold up Force of Negation, hard cast next turn as well, and just try and beat down with this little guy. Let's crack this. We'll get this because we are still playing a Death Shadow and we don't care about our lifetime in this matchup. A Ponder. I kind of want to cast the Ponder here. It means I'm not holding up the Force of Negation though. But we could draw into another threat to increase the clock, or alternatively another land. We don't want any of these. Okay, so we draw another land anyway, so we can still hold up the Force of Negation hard cast. So we have 2 Force of Negations and a Surgical Extraction. And our opponent knows about these. They do have 2 Undercity Informers in their hand. And a Pact of Negation, which is a real card. So I don't want to crack this unless I have to, because I'd rather save it for a Brainstorm if I need to rejigger my hand at some point. A Lotus Petal. This is interesting. I think we crack this now. And get a Watery Grave. Because we're not because we don't really want to use the days here. So I'd rather save that for Force of Negation. Okay, I'm not doing anything there. Interesting. Or they're just going to the second main. Okay. Underground Sea. It's not really what we wanted, but if we play it out, it represents a hard cast Force of Will. So we can bluff our Force of Will. Because they don't know our whole hand because we did Brainstorm earlier. We don't have many turns left to fade here. So we can Force of Negation and Daze here. Another Lotus Petal. So they can cast Undercity Informer now, which is something we would have to daze. They're cracking these. They're not cracking them. They do have a Pact of Negation that we know about. But if they leave themselves with no mana out, then we can try and get them with a Surgical Extraction because they won't be able to Memory's Journey very easily. Xantid Swarm. How do we feel about a Xantid Swarm? They can just pay with the days here, so that's not great for us. We could be in a spot of trouble here because Force of Negation is not Force of Will. Sure, we let this go because there's nothing else we can do about it. So this is going to be a problem for us. This will be a great time to draw one of those Fatal Pushes I put into the deck. Yeah, I guess I'm just really good at this game. Speak and you shall receive. Wowzers, Bowsers. That's some good sideboarding right there. If you don't put in your deck, you can't draw it, I guess, right? So these Force of Negations not being Force of Will are a real thing that we have to worry about because we can't counter the Undercity Informer. Thoughtseize would be great here. Something. Oh, this is a pretty good one. So they discard one of their Undercity Informers and the Pact of Negation. So this is their last turn to do something. So I could surgically extract the Undercity Informer now, since I know they have a second one in hand. That would force them to have to make 4 mana this turn. I think that's the correct play here. So we've got 2 Undercity Informers here. They do have a Memory's Journey here. Okay, so they're just scooping it up. All right, 2-0 with Doom Shadow, I guess. I was expecting at maximum to win 2 games, so anything from this point onwards is just gravy. Let's go into another round. All right, so this is our opening hand. We have Ponder. It's pretty good. And we have a Force of Will with a backup Ponder in case something goes horribly wrong on turn 1. So I think this is a keep. It's not blisteringly fast, but it has tools that we want to work with. Scrubland. Don't see one of those every day. This could be Reanimator here. Okay, so we have this Dark Ritual. So if we don't counter this, they could cast a discard spell and then Entomb Reanimate. This definitely gives me another turn, so I think we do this. Because if they go like Thoughtseize, Entomb, Entomb Reanimate, we just lose the game on the spot. So we can Wasteland them here, or we can Ponder. They're on 5 cards. I think if we Wasteland them here, they won't be able to reanimate a guy this turn, unless they have land and another Dark Ritual. I think this is the best way of making sure that we get another turn in the game. I'm assuming this is a Reanimator deck, and they've just drawn one of their Scrublands for their Serenities in the sideboard. They just happen to have drawn it. So maybe that's wrong, but it's a line that I'm taking. It can be punished, or it can be massively rewarded. Oh my god, absolutely beautiful stuff. Okay, let's get a Ponder out of us. I do love Wasteland a lot. Okay, so we have Daze, we have Force of Will, we have a bunch of stuff that we kind of want here. Okay, so we'll draw the Daze this turn, and then we will draw the Force of Will the turn after, because they're only going to have 1 mana on their turn, I think. Let's not shuffle this. And then next time we can shuffle away the land. If we can steal a game from Reanimator, I'll be pretty happy about that. So we know one of the cards on top, so we can either have a completely fresh Ponder, or we can Ponder with 3 cards. I think we want a completely fresh Ponder here. Let's go for that. Okay, so we have a Death Shadow that we can't do anything with, but we have a Doomsday that can win us the game very quickly. So I think we keep it like this. We do not shuffle our library. We cast Dark Ritual. We cast Doomsday. Our opponent could just scoop here, to be fair. Okay, so we want the Thassa's Oracle. And our opponent shouldn't be running Wastelands in their deck, if I've correctly put them on Reanimator. So we want Cyclers. Where are our Cyclers? Street Wraith is 2 life, 4 life. So we're going to go down to 8 life here. So that will take us down to 4 life. That's fine. Okay, they're just scooping now. So our pile would be Street Wraith, Thassa's Oracle, Edge of Autumn. That's 1, 2, 3. So we still need another draw there. So we would probably need one more turn to be able to go off there. Because we don't have the mana for a consider pile. Alright, anyway, we go to sideboarding. So we are under the impression that our opponent is a reanimated deck, which means we want these Force of Negations. We want these Surgical Extractions. The opposition agent has text. Snuff Out is not going to kill a Grizzlebrand, simply put. The Doomsday plan feels like a reasonable way of wrapping up the game later on. We're basically just trying to survive here, I think. So we can probably trim... Okay, the Fatal Push is not doing anything either. Let's put these side by side for you all. So we got 4 more cards to cut. So we want Dark Ritual still because we want the opposition agent. Do we want to have 4 Doomsdays or do we want to trim on Doomsday slightly? Doomsday does just give us a way of winning the game later on if needs be. So I think we can trim one of those, we can trim one of those, trim a Death Shadow, and then probably these are the cards we need to win in a pinch off of the Doomsday. We definitely can't get rid of any more shadows here. We're already boarding out 3 threats. That's quite a lot. So I think we'll probably strip out a Street Wraith here. Or should it be the Edge of Autumn? Let's have a Street Wraith back. Where is it? Okay. Or should that be a Death Shadow? No, it should be Street Wraith. That's fine. Submit. Our life total won't matter. It's either going to be gone or not. Our opponents begin with 7 cards in hand, which doesn't fill me with a great amount of joy, to be honest. Like, we have the Force of Will to stop something, but then we're kind of going to be on like a brainstorm consider plan after that, and that's going to be all we've got. So we can have the same card with 1 less mana, it's still going to be fine. Alright, I like this one a little bit more. We have a little bit of mana attack, and we have a Ponder, which is better than consider or brainstorm on its own. So we'll keep this, we'll throw back one of these lands that we don't need and say done. Let's see what our opponent does here. If I play land into Dark Ritual, we'll snap off a Force of Negation. Grief. I guess they can take one of our counter spells, but they can't take them both. So they're going to have to work through them. So we have a little bit of redundancy here, but it does mean that if we have to use our counter spell, we're going to lose our Ponder, which is not where I want to be, because this Ponder's supposed to be doing quite a lot of work for us. But it looks like we just might not get the opportunities to do that. Okay, so I took the Force of Negation rather than the Force of Will, which is interesting to me. Force of Will hits more things, but maybe they're trying to cast a Faithless Looting this turn. They didn't want it exiled. No, okay, so I have a swamp. So I can't wasteland them. Smart. I've only got 4 cards in hand though. So what is this going to be? This is going to be a Reanimate on the Grief. Jeez. So if I Force of Will here, I lose my Ponder. But if they Reanimate Grief, then I lose my Ponder? This is bad. This is bad. I don't like this one very much. Like, we don't really have any way of removing creatures once they're in play, and I think just keeping the creature off the board, because it's going to mash up our hand anyway. Okay. I think that was the right play. Like, we could get punished, but we're going to lose all the action in our hand anyway. We may as well stop them having a clock, because they might just have nothing after that. They might have been relying on that, because you normally wouldn't want to burn that. The other option is they have lots of these effects, and it doesn't matter anyway. And we're going to lose both of the things. Stronghold Gambit. Each player chooses a card in their hand. Each player reveals a chosen card. The owner of the creature revealed this way the lowest mana cost puts onto the battlefield. Oh, okay, so they're going to get a Grizzlebrand into play with a Stronghold Gambit, I guess. Oh, okay, an Archon of Cruelty. That's pretty bad for us. I'm pretty dead here. Stronghold Gambit's cool. You don't see it all the time. I do have a 7-drop in my deck, though, but they think I'm just straight up Doomsday, so they don't know about the rest of my deck. Okay, so this is going to hit us next turn. We need to play out our blue sources. We're going to lose a wasteland. We've got one more draw step. What is our draw step? What is a good enough thing to draw here? I think we're just dead. But our opponent might play some more cards. Okay, we just concede now. Okay, let's go back to sideboarding then. So now we know we're playing that. Do we want Hydroblast for the Stronghold Gambit? Or do we just want to get them by having creatures so they don't get to put anything in, which is something I think will be quite good because they don't know that we're doing that. So I think I'm going to put one of these in and strip out a Death Shadow here. I think this is okay. Do I want to strip out a Death Shadow or do I want to strip out a Dark Ritual? The Dark Ritual is going to be good for these things. But is that what the game is really about? We're better off just having another threat. I think probably is the case. I don't really want Turak, although the more creatures I have, the worse Stronghold Gambit's going to be. So maybe we want more creatures. No, I think we're fine here. I think we just run it like this. If we keep this, we can get around Stronghold Gambit, which is nice. And if they pitch cards for the Grief, we can end up having them down on quite a lot of cards when the time comes. Let's see how we do. If they're keeping 6, so I think we'll play out our Underground Sea. And let's Thoughtseized our opponent and see what we're working with. Thoughtseizing a player who's mulliganed always feels pretty gross. So if we don't take the Grief, they can pay around this. So I think we hit the Grief here. And then we have Wasteland next turn. And if they draw a big fatty, we can put in our fatty that's slightly lower mana cost with a Stronghold Gambit later down the line. So I'm going to play out the Badlands, presumably. This turn they Entomb. We will Daze it. And we have the Surgical Extraction if they do want to reanimate the Grief. We play out the Wasteland. We Wasteland the Badlands. Really giving them the Death Shadow side of the deck here. After they saw the Doomsday side in the first game. Your 14 land deck, have you missed a land again, have you? No? Okay, so they're going to get a black source here. So we know they have one mystery card in hand. So I don't think we care about the Faithless Looting just yet. Ideally we want to draw a blue card so that we can cast our Ponder whilst holding up our Force of Negation. Apologies if you can hear the helicopter that's still circling around outside at 12:30 at night. Okay, so what did we discard here? Animate Dead and a Stronghold Gambit gone. Okay, so that's a pretty good draw for us. Start pondering. So Fetch Land is nice with Brainstorm, but I'm quite happy with my hand, so we're going to any order and then shuffle. A Watery Grave. That's not particularly exciting to me, but see what our opponent has on offer. A Reanimate targeting the Grief. I think we will cast Surgical Extraction targeting Grief. This also lowers our life total, so Death Shadows can be online soon. Okay, so they got... Oh, I got a Grief out of the hand as well. That's got a sting, isn't it? So let's have a look at their library. Stronghold Gambit, Sarah's Emissary. We can't afford to let them have into play. But yes, they're not the blue builds. They've got Stronghold Gambit instead. Okay, so we are done there. And their Reanimate fizzles. And they just have an Animate Dead in hand. Animate Dead can hit my creatures as well, which is important to remember. So we have a choice here of whether or not we try and Brainstorm first. Because if we Brainstorm and miss, then we're in a little bit of trouble. So I think we could just play the Gurmag Angler and start racing here and hold up the Force of Negation. I think we'll probably do that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we've got Force of Negation for their one spell. They have an Animate Dead in hand with no targets. They don't have enough mana to cast the Faithless Looting yet, though. Unless they've drawn a land this turn. They have drawn lands, which will leave them with one card in hand. Are they going to go for it? Okay, it looks like they're going for the Faithless Looting now. I don't want to counter this one. Because they're only going to have one card left in their hand, so they're not going to be able to keep a discard effect and a reanimation spell. So hopefully we can draw a blue card, so we can keep the Force of Negation up. But we can hard cast it next turn anyway. So they still have the Animate Dead in hand, as you'd expect. Okay, so this is pretty good for us. I think we just snap this off straight away, because we find something like a Thoughtseize, so we can hit their hand. Okay, so if we put this and this back, and we have the Street Wraith that we can then cycle into this land that we can then play, which we can then crack, go get this, pay 2 life, make a massive guy. So our opponent needs to find a creature. They're going to find a way of putting a creature in the graveyard and messing with my hand. And I don't think they can do that on drawing one card. So they're going to take 5 this turn, and then next turn they're going to take 9. So this would be a great turn to draw a Doomsday, because then we can just make our low total into 4. And this will get +5. This will be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so Doomsday wins us the game next turn. But I don't want to try and Brainstorm into it in case I miss, because I need to hold open the Brainstorm. Although I could brainstorm and then hold open the Force of Negation hardcast. I don't hate that as a play. I think we will do that actually. End of turn. Let's brainstorm. Sure, I like all of these cards. We'll cycle this. This is 6. So we're not quite there yet, but we can cast the Ponder, or we can have Force of Negation and hold up. We can hardcast Force of Negation and hold up Force of Will blue card because of the Ponder. So we can counter 2 of their spells. We can counter a discard spell and a thing. Okay, so just packed it in. All right, so we are 3-0 with Doom Shadow. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, we're into round 4 and we're on the play this time. So our opening hand has... We can take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage, which means the Death Shadow won't be live. We do have some ways of manipulating our opponent's resources, because we've got Days, we've got the Wasteland, we've got the Force of Wills, but we kind of need some sort of Ponder or something to really fix this hand, because at the moment we're just going to be playing like a weird control game, I think, here. So I'm not really sure that's where we want to be. I think we mulligan this one. Right, this is a much better hand because we've got the Ponder and the Force of Will still. We've still got the Wasteland, we've got the Thoughtseize. The question here is what we throw back. So we can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that put us to 13, which still isn't quite where I want to be. I think it's a case of, am I keeping... I think I would definitely want to keep the Fetch Land. I'm keeping these, and I'm keeping the Thoughtseize. We want to play turn 1 Thoughtseize. I think we want to keep the Death Shadow, which means we probably want to throw back the Flooded Strand, although if we're throwing something back, we might as well keep the Flooded Strand and get an extra point of damage on ourselves. So we'll crack this. Go and get ourselves one of these. Yes. Let's see what our opponent's doing. Hopefully we can pick apart. Okay, so the hand is a bit slow here. So they have one card that does business, which is the Green Sun Zenith. They have Prismatic Ending, which is a little bit annoying. But I think we take the Green Sun Zenith and just leave them with a bunch of mana. And the Prismatic Ending, which is going to be an easy answer to our Death Shadow. But I think them's the breaks, as they say. Next time we can Ponder and then see where that takes us. We're discarding a Windswept Heath. Okay, so the question is, would I rather Ponder or Brainstorm here? Now, I'm quite happy with my hand, to be honest. I would rather have a Ponder and use a Brainstorm for a Force of Will if necessary. So I'm going to Ponder here. So we got a Street Wraith here. Gets our life total lower. So does a Thoughtseize. And we have a follow-up Ponder. Like, we get all 3 of these cards by next turn, but we can't cast them all immediately. Because we can Thoughtseize away the Prismatic Ending and start beating down. So I think we want additional blue cards in hand. So we're going to put Thoughtseize first, then the Street Wraith, then the Ponder. And then we're not going to shuffle, we're just going to draw. So we'd rather use the Brainstorm than the Ponder for the Force of Will because we want the 2 cards further down as well. So let's see what our opponent does. We're on it's not the quickest. Okay, Flagstones. That's a little bit annoying. That can jump them ahead in mana. And if you like hit a crop rotation that's sacrificing Flagstones, it doesn't really feel like you've really done them there. So I think this turn we will how many cycle this first, don't we? Get the Thoughtseize. Yeah, so we'll Thoughtseize them, see what else is going on in their hands. Crop rotation. Sure, this is fine because we're just going to Wasteland them in a second anyway. A Savannah. Sure. Let's see what they're working with. And Thespian Stage. So we're going to hit this Thespian Stage in a second anyway. So it's just a Prismatic Ending that we knew was there. Okay, so then we play out our Wasteland. So we have choices. We can either try and wait for them to combo, but eventually they're going to get the resources to do it. So I think we're best off just hitting the Thespian Stage right now. Yeah, so if we hit the Thespian Stage now, it makes crop rotation a very good draw for them. If we don't hit it now and they draw a Wasteland, then they can just 2-stage us here, and we don't really get the chance to do it. So I think we just hit the Thespian Stage now. That might be a thing that I come back to and regret later, but we can always Force of Will if needs be for something. Which is playing out. Silver Knight off the top's a pretty good one. Is it good enough for me to Force of Will it? I think it is. And we pitch the Brainstorm. Ideally, we'd like to draw a land here and set ourselves up. A Thoughtseize again, that's not what we want. So we could Ponder and try and find a land for for Death Shadow. But if we miss on the land, we're not doing anything. But I think we do need to find the land here, right? So let's ponder. Playing one spell a turn doesn't feel great when they're a wasteland deck and can draw at any moment. Ooh, this is pretty good. But I would really like to draw 2 of these cards is the only issue. So we want to take the wasteland this turn. So you want 2 Death Shadows. I think we do want 2 Death Shadows. So I think we go like this. And we'll like shuffle. And play. We'll just get rid of these things immediately. Like, we know what's in our opponent's hand. They can't crop rotation it away and get value. I think it's just the best solution there. Hopefully our opponent doesn't draw a wasteland this turn. There's the Windset Tubes we know about. Okay, so now we start deploying our threats. Next time we play this guy out and we bash for 5 because the second one's going to get pumped by the Thoughtseize that we're going to fire off. Which might not have any targets, but it is what it is. So they could draw Minsk and Boo here, which would be very good. But if we take the damage from Minsk and Boo and then kill them, the Minsk, sorry, and have a big blocker, then I think we'll be okay. Baduka Bog. So that's going to make Anglers a bad draw. We know we're not drawing into an Angler. Okay, so play this out. I think I want to see what my opponent has first before I decide how much life I pay for my Death Shadow here. So they have nothing. Okay, so this is going to hit them for 5, 6, 7, 8. Or if I play it, or if I play this one, so this will hit them for 6, and then I hit them for 2 more. With 2 more dots for 6, that won't be lethal. So this has to get us a Watery Grave, so that we have a 2-turn clock. So our opponent's got 1 draw step to kill one of our guys to buy them another draw step. So Minsk and Boo doesn't do it. Dryad Arbor is their draw. Okay, so they're conceding. On to the sideboarding. So, interesting. Our opponent is going to be having Life from the Loams in their deck. They look like a sort of green-white depths with a splash for Minsk and Boo, I'm imagining. So Plague Engineer is very good against Minsk and Boo because you just name Hamster. Opposition Agent has some very real text against the crop rotation Elvish Reclaimer deck. Brazen Borrower is pretty good against the old Marit Lage token. This Snuff Out is okay. The Fatal Pushers are okay against, like, they can kill Knights and they can kill the Reclaimer. So the question is, how useful is the Doomsday side of this? So if they hide behind a Glacial Chasm, we can just get around them with a Doomsday. I don't actually think Force of Will is very good in this matchup, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think I'd rather have removal spells than Force of Will. The only thing I really want Force of Will for is Minsk and Boo, so maybe Force of Negation is just better, because I can hard cast it as well and not put card disadvantage on myself. The Thoughtseizers are okay, so let's just board these out, keep in the Doomsday package, and trim on one little thing here, which probably needs to be Gurmag Angler, just because they've got the Baduka Bogs. I want to consider back in as well. I have to consider probably another Gurmag Angler, I think, right? Oh no, this could be wrong. We're going to play it like this. Let's see. Our opponents submitted a 61 card deck. Our opening hand does not have any way of casting any spells. We have to mulligan this. This opening hand can kill an Elvish Reclaimer and Thoughtseize them, and then Dark Ritual out with Gurmag Angler, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we can do that, and we've been off the edge of autumn. Like, we are pretty cold to a wasteland, but that is basically just how this deck functions, unfortunately. So if they play the Reclaimer out on 1, then we Fatal Push it. If they don't, then we Thoughtseize them. Oh, Green Sun Zenith. That's an interesting one. I don't really want to kill a Dryad Arbor. I think I would rather Thoughtseize them. Oh, okay. This is probably a better shout here. That we can Opposition Agent them. Is that going to be better than Thoughtseize? I think it probably is. Because they're not a blue deck, I'm going to try and get them with it. Which which may be greedy, but you got to get a little bit greedy sometimes, right? If you want to win a game of the Magic the Gathering, you got to greed people out sometimes. Oh, this is going to be sweet. Oh, I didn't have it. Oh, I didn't go for it in the end. That was a shame. Maybe they were going to play something else now, though. So it's still right to crack it here. We're not going to get the Windswept Heath. If we'd have played it in their upkeep, we could have done. It's a shame. We should crack off their Windswept Heath in response here. If we played it in their upkeep, we would have stopped them from being able to crack it. The greed did not pay off that time, but sadly that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, 1, 2... So I think the correct play is Thoughtseize them here, right? But if they have a Wasteland, then we're in real trouble. If we consider and hit a mana source, and that's the best world that we can live in. So let's try this. A Dark Ritual. Yes, that can go in the graveyard and we'll draw this. Oh, look at that. Is it going to be one of those days, is it? I really hope so. Let's see what they're working with. This is the turn we can stop them from casting a Minsk and Boo. Oh, geez, look at all those Wastelands. Not a fan of that one. Yikes. So we can play a Gomag Angler next turn. But, yeah, a little bit yikes from what's going on over there. And they got Sylvan Library ticking up. So I think we are a little bit behind here. Okay, so they paid 4 life to keep a card. That's not great for us either. Wastelands, we're going to lose one of our lands. Yeah, we knew that was coming. I think it's more important to get a threat down than it is to get rid of their Dryad Arbor this turn. Okay, so at least we can cycle it once they try and get us. So let's cast this guy. 5/5. Big old angler. I used to play a lot of Tombstalker once upon a time before this guy was printed. I do miss Tombstalker. So if I attack here, they can play Endurance. So I don't really want to attack my opposite into an Endurance here. Whereas the 5/5 can come in as much as he likes against Endurance. So our opponent was just using that as a draw engine last turn. And they're going to keep a card and put themselves to 4. That might be a bit precarious. Because this can only really be answered by a Swords to Plowshares. They are going to 4. Interesting. So if they play a Wasteland out here, we will cycle this, sacrificing this land. Haha! Got you. Maybe. Maybe? I don't know. Let's see. Tapped a green mana. Maybe they just expect this to resolve and they've started doing the next thing before. So we have a Ponder and a Fatal Push. So if we can find a mana source, it'd be alright. Elvish Reclaimer, sure. This doesn't do anything with the opposition agent in play. Well, it gives me lands, so I hope they activate it, to be honest. Dark Ritual. We only want to attack with our 5/5. Sure. So that guy goes straight under the bus. 4 land cards in the graveyard. So the Knight's going to be a 6/6 if they can make it. So they can't take any more cards here without killing themselves. So they're down to just Miri's Guiling every turn instead of... Oh, they conceded. Excellent. Okay. So we are now... Was that 4-0 with Doom's Shadow? All right. Can we do it? Probably not, but we'll give it a go. I was not expecting to get more than 2 wins in this deck, if I'm being honest with you. Right, let's carry on. Okay, we're on the draw for the final round, and our opening hand doesn't cast any spells. Mulligan. This hand... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're ways off casting Gomag Angler. We do have some daisies, so we can maybe just try and tempo people a little bit. This feels not great, but do I want to go to 5 cards? This deck kind of needs a decent chunk of resources. I think we will reluctantly keep this and try and leverage the daisies. So we'll keep this and put the Doomsday back. And we'll just play out a Flooded Strand. I think that represents slightly more decks. The Flooded Strand go, and they're going to think Jeskai Control or something like that, maybe. Forest. Noble Hierarch. I think we stick to the plan here. We cast Daze, targeting this. This looks like Poison would be my first guess. I think that's the best Noble Hierarch deck. but could be wrong. Could be some sort of Bant Blade deck. But we need to get value out of our daisies. Let me play this one. If we think they're poison, we should definitely take the damage here. So I'm going to take the damage. You miss every shot you don't call, right? So this will make our Death Shadow live if they play a creature. And will also give us some food for the Gomag Angler. Sure. Bit sad to see it go, but there we go. I'm going to cast something in their second main phase. This is a Green Sun Zenith, sure. A Dryad Arbor. Okay, so this turn puts out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are slightly shy, unless our opponent tries to counter the Snuff Out. We're getting a little bit low on life total here, which is kind of, I guess, where we want to be. I think we just say go here, rather than snuffing out and not doing anything. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I should have held this fetch back, actually. That would have been a smarter play, wouldn't it? Kind of baiting them into a fetch land here. What I can do is I can, if they wasteland us, I can snuff out. Yeah. So I can snuff out and then I can daze their guy. So you snuff this out. Oh shit, we need to hold priority here. So then we... Actually, do we even care if they wasteland us off this water grave? I don't think we do. We just let it go. Actually, maybe maybe I shouldn't have snuffed out. Actually, maybe that was an error. Thinking about it. Okay, so they got a Jit with no creatures in play. So this is like a Maverick deck then. Okay, so we play this Underground Sea out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure. Getting double wastelanded and then playing a 7-drop is pretty funny, but that's the deck for you. Let's get this Gomag Angler down. We have a daze to back it up, and they're onto 1 land here. So we can daze pretty much any creature. I think we daze here, right? Stoneforge Mystic. We definitely daze this one. And then we start to go to town with our Gomag Angler. It's a 4-turn clock. I think we just play the old Wasteland game here, right? Strip them down low resources wise. Put them onto 1 land. Beating a 7-7 with only a forest is pretty hard. 5-5 with only a forest is pretty tricky. Like, we could have maybe brainstormed into some counter magic, but I think just taking them off of mana is better here. A Hex Drinker, okay. They're going to make me gain life here? Sure. So I think this turn we have to brainstorm. We've got your 2 Doomsdays eating a hole in our hand here. Okay. So we can't fail push this turn. What does this have? Protection. Okay, well, we're definitely putting back the Doomsdays, right? That's awesome. We can't play a land this turn. Oh, I can't remember what this guy does. Protection from instants at level 3, isn't it? So if they spend their whole turn doing that and they're not putting a Jitte on their guy. It's just coming for 5 here. I think weirdly we want them to equip Jitte here. So this guy's still a 2-1. And then we daze the next creature they play. Does buy them an extra turn on the clock with the 4 life they'll gain. But this game's going to be pretty tight margins either way, I think. So they can try and race us by putting us up to 4. Which I think is probably the best play, to be honest. But I think we just have to hope they don't do that. I wonder if I could have baited them into the wrong play by not attacking. I'll have to have a think about that one. Okay, so we've got another land. They're cracking their land. Which makes me think that they are aiming to just plough a load of mana into their Hex Drinker this turn. Which is not great for us. Nice if I could see the text on this properly. Just have to look it up, I think. So there's a level up that we didn't want to see happen. What do we have now? The interface for Magic online for these sorts of creatures is not very good. Alright, protection from instants is what it gets. Okay. So that's not ideal for us. Coming in for 4. It's half our life total. We may have lost this one. Because we've got Doomsday that we know out on top. So what level is this? 4, 5, 6, 7. So if they have a land in hand, then they just get to do it anyway. And we can't kill it with the fatal push. Yeah, I think this game has run away from us here. With these two Doomsdays on top of our library, just not doing what they need to do. Where's my sorcery speed removal when I need it, right? Now they might, since it's 5, they can then equip the Jit and attack. And well, I suppose they don't want to attack, do they? They can just equip it. I need a way of getting around it because next turn I can have protection from everything. Weird that they're not pumping anything into it right now. Like you have to spend your mana this turn, right? Unless you're just holding it up for. So there's this Doomsday that we knew about. So if we attack, they're not going to block. If we hold back on blocks, they're just going to pump their guy. I think if we do nothing, our opponent has more chance of making a mistake here, right? I'm waiting for our opponent to. Okay, it's going to put us to 2. They just got another one as well. They just got us coming and going. I could have dazed that, but I think this game is over. What have they got for us? I'm thinking a long time about making their guy have protection from everything. Okay, they just got punishing fire, sure. They're a bit of a weird looking deck, to be honest. They've got these little guys in them. So having a removal spell seems good here. They're probably going to have something that opposition agent is good against. I'm not convinced. So these can take out punishing fire and life them alone, which is certainly a thing. They had red mana, so maybe they're playing like Minsk and Boo would be my guess. So maybe the Hydroblast is something we want there. We definitely want the Plague Engineers if we suspect Minsk and Boo. The Surgical Extraction. So all of these cards are potential. So let's just put the Doomsday package in one pile here. And then have a little think about what we want to do. Like, I don't think we want these Force of Wills. As mad as that may sound to some of you. How good are the Daisies going to be here? On the play, the Daisies are probably going to be fine. But they might get a lot worse as the game goes on. I don't think I want to be trying to play a Daze game here. These Force of Negations have not got a lot of blue cards to support them. So they're basically just 3 mana counter spells. Is that something we even want? I think it might be still. So we could just cut the Force of Negations entirely and just play like a Surgical Extraction for their graveyard shenanigans. How do I feel about that? Or we can play a Brazen Borrower just to give us a flying threat. And we still have a Doomsday, the Doomsday out pile here. So I think it's alright. Like the Turak is going to be good against some of their white creatures as well, which is something worth considering. If we're putting in all these threats, we can probably board down on those 2 threats slightly. So the Turak will dodge all their removal, so I think that's where I want to be. So we got 2, 4, 6 damage straight away. We've got a Fatal Push for their first guy. We got a bit of way of digging. I think this is keepable. We're pretty cold to Wasteland, which is a phrase that I find myself saying a lot. But I think we play the Watery Grave out and then hold open our blue spells and our Fatal Push and see where we end up. Like, because they're a Noble Hierarch deck, I don't think we want to care about their spells for days and things like that. So I think I was right to board out days against the Noble Hierarch deck, because otherwise you basically have to kind of daze the Noble Hierarch, otherwise you're just playing, they can just play on curve. And dazing the Hierarch is fine, but then you're back a land and they're ahead anyway, so they end up in the same situation. Alright, so we'll play this out and we will pay 2 life. Let's see how badly the Wasteland's going to go for us. So we might have to brainstorm if they Wasteland us. There's the Wasteland. I assume it's getting snapped off immediately. So we'll brainstorm here. So we did find a land. We don't really want this opposition agent just yet. And I think they consider... I guess we take the Ponder because we're going to be drawing it now anyway. Yeah, sure. That's fine. Not great, but it'll be okay. I think we play this out. Pay some life. Get this. And then we're going to Ponder here. So I think we want another mana source because, well, you've seen what's been happening, right? So we need to make sure there's another mana source available to us. The Thoughtseize is fine here. The Brainstorm is fine here. So I think we just put... Like, we can draw all these when we want. because we have the Street Wraith. So we're just going to make a big shadow that's probably just going to get Prismatic Ending, but we can Thoughtseize and clear the way first if they don't blow up our land. Okay, they didn't blow up our land. That's reassuring. A Noble Hierarch, sure. That is going to be smaller than what we're doing. Okay, so we play this out. Yes, I'd like to pay 2 life. We'll cycle this. Cast it's targeting you. What have you got? Mother of Runes, Green Sun Zenith, Green Sun Zenith. We've only got 2 mana here. 3 mana with the Hierarch. Do you want to try and churn through Hexdrinker? Or churn through these Mother of Runes? We can kill the first Mother of Runes. I think it just has to be the Hexdrinker, right? We play out this Death Shadow. And we can grow it at instant speed if we need to. But we'd ideally like to keep this in case we have a brainstorm we need to work through. So we're going to kill their next play. Keep the hand popped out. So I assume they're playing this Windswept Teeth, yep. So they can Green Sun Zenith for 2 here. Well, they can Green Sun Zenith for 1 for something like Elvish Reclaimer, which gives them a lot of tools for messing around. I feel that they are ahead looking at their hand, but we have this card, which is pretty good. Mother of Runes, sure. Mother of Runes, sure. They just Dryad Arboring? Okay, they just Dryad Arboring. So a removal spell for the Mother of Runes or the Plague Engineer that we brought it in would be... Well, we need the mana for the Plague Engineer, don't we? We have a Wasteland here. I think, as with all good turns, it probably starts off with a Brainstorm, doesn't it? So we have a Doomsday line we can pivot into next turn if we want to. Or we can Fatal Push both of their Mother of Runes this turn. It seems like something I want. So if we put the Doomsday back and the Wasteland since we're not playing it this turn, and then we play out this Scalding Tarn. We crack the Scalding Tarn and get Underground Sea. And then we have to just kill both of these guys. Otherwise we never get to kill anything ever again. So we attack. No blocks. They do have us on a 3-turn clock with their Dryad Arbor here. But we have 2 cantrips to find us something. So again, it's going to be a tight margin game here. But if they want to do a good Green Sun Zenith, they're going to have to tap some of their potential blockers. And it's certainly possible that I can make this guy lethal on the next turn if I... Well, they can certainly expect us as the thing that we can do to make this lethal. Especially as a lot of these decks play Dress Down, which just turns it into a 13. Is this a Minsk and Boo? If it's Minsk and Boo, we're probably dead. But it looks like it's probably just going to be a Green Sun Zenith by the way they're taking the time to play the costs. I feel this game is on a knife edge here. So what is the Green Sun Zenith for 2 going to find them? A Scrib Ranger, protection from blue. Return a forest you control, untap target creature. Interesting. They're just going to use their guy to constantly return the Dryad Arbor so I can't get through it. That seems pretty good. They've basically assembled a thing that can stonewall 1 creature return. So we need to find a removal spell again. So we are certainly not favoured in this game right now. Yeah, they're coming in for 1. I think we're going to lose this game, which is a shame, but... Alright, let's ponder. The Wasteland can hit the Dryad Arbor, don't get me wrong, but we can't really cast the... We can't really cast any of these spells profitably, so I think we put any order and then shuffle. Yikes. Get the most information, let's consider this turn. Yes, I would like that in my graveyard, please. A Death Shadow. Okay, that's a pretty good one. So we play this out. So this is going to kill us in a couple of turns. So if we attack this turn, they return a forest at a cost. So I want to Wasteland in their turn. But then they can Mother of Runes, one of their guys. Let me do the maths here. So if I Wasteland this now, they just bounce it, and then they take 8. And then next turn, they have Dryad Arbor and Mother of Runes. They can stonewall 2 creatures. So I have to draw something like a Wasteland to get through. If I Wasteland in their turn, at the end of their turn, they'll bounce this, and then they have a blocker for 1 creature here. with the Mother of Runes. So their Noble Hierarch has to stay back on blocks. This will attack for 2, put us to 3. This will give them... obviously they can drop another creature. So they can give this like pro-black. So they can block 1 and then take 8 next turn. So I think we have to hit this now and hope that our draw is good. That is our route to winning this game, I think. If we draw another Wasteland, is the best on because it's colourless. If we draw a removal spell, we can hit the Mother of Runes, which forces it to either protect itself or protect one of their guys. So if I have Snuff out here, they would lose the game, so they probably have to block, right? No. Okay. No block. I probably wouldn't block there either. If they've got it, they've got it, right? I think you've got to play the thing that means that you're going to win the game. Throwing away creatures at this point isn't going to win them the game, so I think that's... Because now they get the setup with the Dryad Arbor plus the Mother of Runes here. They might even be able to field another blocker as well. So they can attack for 2 with the Scrib Ranger. Not ideal. Makes our Death Shadows bigger, but it's not the size of the Death Shadows that's the problem right now. I need that Distortion Strike or something, which isn't in my deck. But Knight of the Reliquary. Okay, that was a pretty good top deck there. Okay. So they have 2 blockers that they can bounce or protect. So it's not looking great for our little Doom Shadow hero over here. Plague Engineer is very good on this board. Right? If we name human, these 2 die. Which means they give protection to one thing and they bounce this. But then this comes back and kills them on the backswing. So Plague Engineer is still a good draw, I think. Gurmag Angler. How good a draw is that? So this turn, if we attack with 2 guys, they just fog us. I think we cast the Angler. So they bash us for 2 this turn in the air. No, wait, that's not true. They give this protection and then this comes in and kills us. Yikes. Will they see that play? I would imagine they will do. So if we attack, they're just going to block these 2 and then bounce. And then we're definitely not winning the game. I think we attack with 1 guy just to make them think about Mother of Runes as a defensive card. Because the only way we're winning is if they keep the Mother of Runes defensive. So we're basically trying to mind games our opponent here. Because they have us dead on board if they attack their Mother of Runes aggressively. Feels like the dream is done. We were this close to a trophy. Well, I guess we're getting spanked 0-2, so it's not really that close, is it? But well, that's fair enough. But I was only expecting to get 2 wins with this deck, so getting 4 is, yeah, I'll take that. I'm happy with that. So let's see what our opponent plays here. We're just going to have to mind games them here, I think. So we do this, and then we pass the turn a little bit. So Scrib Ranger is going to untap. They're going to Mother of Runes it instead. Now let's make them think we've got something. Like, normally I just let them come and smack me instead of playing these stupid mind games, but it's the trophy on the line. If our opponent makes a mistake, it's nice, isn't it? But I suspect they're just going to attack the Mother of Runes and bash me up with the old Knight of Reliquary here. In comes a lad, and we concede. Alright, so yeah, 4-1. Let's have a look at the deck. Okay, so the deck performed better than I expected, to be honest. The Doomsday plan didn't take up a lot of space. It did mean that our Doomsday dukes weren't particularly fast at winning the game. It sort of took us 3 turns if we didn't, depending on what we had in hand, because Doomsday was generally one of the last things we played unless we were just going off really early. So I think the Doomsday plan was certainly good. We definitely won us games. Maybe somebody who's more competent with Doomsday, this is the first Doomsday I've ever cast today. So someone who's more competent with Doomsday can work out the correct bits of the pile to put in this deck. I think that would be quite good. because there's quite a lot of overlap between the Doomsday and the Death Shadow deck, it actually did feel pretty cohesive as a deck. The Gomag Angler was definitely the right choice with the Dark Rituals. We did do that on occasion. We're a little bit shy of remove. I think the sideboard probably needs a little bit of tightening up. Like, we lost to Maverick in that last round, but we did beat the Green-White Depths deck, which is Maverick adjacent. I think Green-White Depths is better than Maverick. So I don't think we can feel upset about that last one. Like, we did run pretty hard. There was a few things where I said, oh, I need to draw a Fatal Push here to win, and I drew it. So I can't be upset with the luck I got in those rounds, even if it abandoned me in the last one. Sideboard-wise, what I did notice is I felt myself not having that many blue cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that's like the bare minimum amount of blue cards that a deck needs to play Force of Will. Like 16 is pushing it. 17 obviously pretty close. So that makes me think that this sideboard is slightly incorrect to build. Although when we played against the Oops All Spells deck, we did board in like a load of our blue spells to increase our blue counts. The Force of Negation didn't look so bad there. Because if you're boarding these in, you're probably keeping your Force of Wills. So I think working on the sideboard, which was largely just thrown together for the league, to be honest, would be what I'd look at next. And maybe getting somebody to help edit the Doomsday package. We could always trim one of the Doomsdays for another card to make the package run a bit smoother, so that you can just win off of it out of nowhere. But yeah, I had a really fun time playing this deck, and I don't know, maybe it's not complete rubbish like I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be a little bit of silly fun and getting some people, but we actually just kind of like stomped a few people and put up a decent result. All right, that's it for today's video. But if you enjoyed this video, which I really hope you did, and if you're still here, you must have done, right? Please, please, please subscribe. I need more of my subscribers to go up so I can get monetized. I want to try and do 4 or 5 leagues every week, and if I can get monetized by Christmas, then it means in the new year I can actually rely on this as a thing, because I'm putting a lot of time into it, so I'd really appreciate it, is what I'm saying. All right, and also if you know anyone else who loves legacy content, send them my way, because that's all I'm going to be doing. All right, we're done now, so thank you very much for watching and enjoying this lovely experience with me, and I will hopefully catch you on one of my videos next time. So feel free to leave comments about how to fix this deck, and thanks for listening. Goodbye.